Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream tonight. I am back from England. I am back from the ambassadors meeting at the Dovetail Games headquarters, and I am full to the brim with news and new motivation about our beautiful game, Trains and World. And you will learn all this stuff in only 10 days. Then something then the Dovetail Direct will be, and everything will be unveiled. Today we're gonna run trains between Nürnberg and Ingolstadt moin together. Yes, there will be a lot. DD Radar says Ingolstadt, and we're looking at Ingolstadt latest TSG baby featuring Nuremberg. That was fast. Wow, is that so? Yeah, it is so. It is soon. Everything is fast. Everything is happening fast. Already only 10 days, then the Dovetail Direct will be, and everything will be released. What is happening in. And DD Radar will be in London next week. This is so great to hear. I always enjoy being in London, even though Inspector says, hey, Tiger, speed on. Yeah, this is what we are going to do. We are speeding 300 kilometers per hour between Ingolstadt and Nuremberg, and everything gets very, very short in between. And DD Radar will be in London. Well, hopefully you have more luck when arriving there than I had when I arrived there on Thursday, because when I went out of my plane at Heathrow and walked to the Elizabeth line station, there were like barricades, and friendly but very firm people said no entry to the station of the Elizabeth line. There are no trains running because of a power outage. The heat obviously or apparently destroyed or damaged the overhead catenary, so there was absolutely no train running that needed overhead catenary. But what we know, the underground is running on the third rail, so actually the Piccadilly line took me to London. What was a bit difficult because obviously I did not have a ticket for the underground, but a ticket for the Elizabeth line, and I actually did not want to go to London City, the city center, or anywhere near, but wanted to go with the Elizabeth line through the whole mess and switch at Abbey Wood and go to Chatham and Camp. But this did not work out, so I went on a train of the Piccadilly line. That train ended prematurely. There was a announcement that this train is not going on. We should find another one, and that's what we did. Sir Digby, hey Tiger and all, he says, very nice to see you guys. I'm just recounting my Chatham to pick up some news. We had our ambassadors meeting on Friday in Chatham. I had a nice chat, as almost as a tradition now, with the big man, Matt Paddleston, sitting on the floor in Dovetail Games office and talking about the game and discussing the news that they gave to us, and that will be really revealed in the Dovetail Direct in only like 9 or 10 days from now, when we are all at the Gamescom. Yeah. And on Thursday, it was a bit of an odyssey to get there because I had to work my way on the underground through the evening rush hour in southern London and finally go to London Bridge station instead of any station that I wanted to go to, and from London Bridge then take a train that finally got me via Sidcup and Mottingham to Dartford, that everyone knows who played the Southeastern High Speed lines. The trains are coming in there from London Victoria and London Bridge Station, and my train came in there in the evening. At London Bridge stations there were all red screens saying there are disruptions there and cancellations here, and a big sign telling you we advise you not to travel at all. So that was a bit of a mess. And since I already had traveled to London. It was a bit late for that, so I had to find my way to Chatham, and with this, it was a 707 D0 Southeastern that took me from a London Bridge station to Gravesend. It ended at the famous platform 0 at Gravesend. You all know that when you played the Southeastern High Speed, the trains are ending there. Not the 707, but the networkers and the game ending there. There are also networkers ending there in real life, but in the game it's almost exclusively networked. Sometimes maybe 700 D0s, but not the 707 D0s. Platform 0 at Gravesend, and then I had to go on to Chatham. And if you're familiar with the Southeast High Speed thing, the Spectre asked, why did you not use the fast travel feature on the map? Yeah, maybe because I did not bring my keyboard with the Shift F shortcut. And I was sitting there, and the PIS information screen on top of my platform that actually looks like it looks in the game when it says first train, second train, third train that is supposed to arrive there. It said the first train 2044 cancelled. Second train 2057 delayed. Third train dash dash dash. I thought, all right, this does not bode too well. Maybe I will now have to walk from Gravesend to Chatham. What is a bit of a thing, or find an Uber or whatever. But then came a announcement on the platform informing us that the 2044 train to whatever Feathersham or Ramsgate or wherever this was supposed to go was cancelled, unfortunately, due to the disruptions and the damage to the overhead catenary. And the other train will be like half an hour late. And I thought, okay, half an hour is better than no train at all. I had to be at the hotel at 11. After that, the reception would close. So I thought, this will be a race, but maybe it works. And then at 2044, the time by the cancelled train, the train arrived. It was a 700 Thameslink the 0 UK, just like in the game. Swerving into the station, I thought, all right. Twice cancelled, once on the PIS board and second on the announcement. Cancels itself out, so the train actually was there and took me to Chatham. So that was a piece of luck. Good thing that from playing the Southeastern High Speed and from making my video about the London lines and train stations, I actually knew where all those destinations on the trains are, so I could find my way. And I finally made it, and even met a couple of the other ambassadors still at the pub. And on Friday we had it. Clap. Yes. That's it. End of story. And then I finally made it. And there was a derailment, as you might have heard, on the same day on not really the Brighton main line, but between Haywards Heath and Lewes. What is the connection between the Brighton main line and the line that we know as the East Coast, Eastern Coastway or East Coastway, the line between Brighton and Eastbourne. And there is this station where you have to go so super slow, and that is Lewes, and there is a connection between the Brighton main line and this, where trains are coming through the tunnel. As the British base advised me where this actually is. And there was a derailment. Adventures of Little Tiger in the Big City. Yes, actually, I usually love, and I actually loved running with the D trains on the tube, on the Piccadilly line, Jubilee line that took me then to London Bridge Station, Victoria line. I like those trains. You actually feel like in the tube, everything is rounded and narrow and low ceiling. Yes. Thing is, I had to pick up my ticket, and I wasn't allowed to pick up my ticket at the machines at Heathrow. The officers told me not to, so I traveled with tapping in and out with my credit card, what I now learned that is possible on the London Underground, actually worked out quite well. Probably I will do this next time when I have to arrive at Heathrow again and not buy a ticket for the Elizabeth line, but just go with the Piccadilly line and find my way to London Bridge Station or another station that can take you to Kent. Might actually be cheaper than buying a ticket for the Elizabeth line on Heathrow or whatever. Yeah, that was the story about going to Chatham on Friday, getting a nice presentation about what they are planning to do with the game. Everything's still super secret, but will be relieved in a very, very short time. And then we can talk about it, and I am sure that there are at least some elements that you will be very happy about. Actually, I found some of them, most of them actually, really, really, really positive. Not all that I wanted will be in the next bag, but a lot of things that I always think that they should focus on, I at least heard that they are thinking about it, and they did not lose it completely out of the scope. And CD Radar says, well, I hope my Azuma trip will be problemless on next Monday then. So are you flying into London, or are you going with the Eurostar? Next Monday, I hope then it will have cooled down and they will have fixed most of their disruptions. Because on Friday there was the next derailment, one in Essex, I think. This is always sends shivers and disruptions, and he will fly, of course. Okay. Famous. All right. Nürnberg Ingolstadt. Any one of you already bought it, played it, enjoyed it? What do you think about it? I'm a bit late with my unboxing, I know. But, yep, you bought it, and what do you think? While I am actually preparing the run, nope, I am on a Train Sim World diet. The route is good, but rather short and insanely expensive. It gets short if you run with the 300. Did you run a service with the München-Nürnberg-Express? It gets a bit longer than. First we do the fast run and let's see how short it actually is. Let's try a service that runs from Ingolstadt to Nuremberg. The problem obviously is that November will probably be a bit dark. Problem is with 300 kilometers per hour, every route gets short, as we know from the French one, right? But I like every high speed LZB map. Alright. So you're actually on the other side of the scale as compared to Acura, who is the commuter specialist. I finally aired out my blue Vectron. Aha! The blue Vectron. Fine. So, it is the 403 ICE3 that we get here with a split screen MFD and with some error messages that you cannot really switch off. They work a bit like not on the expert level, but it's a bit of a thing of its own. And especially the English-speaking world is a bit unhappy because they don't understand what the train is telling you. And I try to tell them that most German speakers don't understand what the train is telling you either, because that's a very awkward way It's not a bug, it's an expert loco suspect. It's not really an expert loco. It starts with the wiper always in front of your nose. Whoops! And then it goes on the side. If it doesn't, you have to put
Türen geöffnet.
Parking position. In expert mode, you will find that the safety systems are activated by default. So if you have the expert mode on, don't bother with switching them on. The eddy current brake is sometimes allowed for service brakes. That is what it says. Wirbelstrombremse nur für Schnellbremsung, not for service brakes. After a certain speed, you will typically be able to use it. That's the light blue row here in the brake symbols. The AFB, you know, you switch it on with the panel AFB. If you want to use it.
AFB.
We're starting at Ingolstadt, and that is actually so in real life. If you're, I've never been to Ingolstadt without a lot of tank cars sitting there in the yard area. Starting with 130, the AFB does not move in increments of 5 kilometers per hour. I don't know if that is actually so in real life or not. At least it makes it a bit more difficult to get the proper setting. And here is Ingolstadt.
Schließvorgang eingeleitet.
Schließvorgang eingeleitet, we've talked about it. The awkward way of saying that the doors are closing. The process of closing the door has been initiated. They said there are new sounds on this train.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
Especially in the cab. You should summon Ronnie for this route, especially. Yes, true. It's a cool. It's not a bug, it's an expert loco. Yes, ETE. Well, the ETE trains are really cool trains. Nobody can deny. We're starting with 130 from Ingolstadt. We're going through Ingolstadt Nord. You should try the they are not so Sakura. Well, I like them. Especially the Dreier. I like the 4 or 6 better. But hey, I like those bubble nosy design. LZB, the next main signal we will pick up an LZB signal most probably. Haven't, but then on the next, now we picked it up. DD Radar High DTG is still waiting for EC4. And the 401 says Acura is least a nice one. Well, never give up hope. The fact that it didn't come with this one is a big disappointment.
Nürnberg Hauptbahnhof, Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
That announcement is a bit early, isn't it? Because we have still 80 kilometers to go. This is Ingolstadt Nord. We're going in the tunnel. The end of the tunnel. Not even at the end of the tunnel. Already here. We can speed up to 160. And see, we have two train sets. And now we're going through the first tunnel, coming out again, and then through a longer tunnel. So a very nice landscape that we can't see because we are in the tunnel. Köschinger Forst, Naturpark Altmühltal, and all that stuff is there. Köschinger Forst is under the Audi factory, or that's out Altmühltal. Well, there is a bit left for the Naturpark. Obviously, Ingolstadt, everyone connects with the Audi factory where the Audi cars are built. The tunnel, not the forest. Yeah, this tunnel is under the Audi factory. Now it increased to 300. But the next tunnel, the long one, and when you're going the Autobahn A9 between Nürnberg and Munich, where it's a bit like the main artery in Bavaria, you pass through Ingolstadt and you see the Audi factory to your left when you're going from Nürnberg to Munich, southbound, and to the right respectively if you're going north. And you don't see it on the train because we are running underneath, and now we are in the long tunnel that I meant, running underneath big parts. I'm not exactly sure whether it is the Naturpark, but at any rate it is close here. Köschinger Forst more to the east, Altmühltal more to the left. Is this a good time to make a joke about Audi drivers? Well, I don't know if there is ever a good time to make jokes about Audi drivers. I'm not driving an Audi, so you can at least not insult me. What is geographically very interesting on this route is that we are actually passing the ridge where all the water gets divided between water that goes to the Rhine and finally into the Atlantic more or less, and the water on the other side that goes to the Danube and then into the Black Sea. Die europäische Wasserscheide. We will just pass it on this route, and there is actually a memorial in real life. I have not spoiled it in the game, but that is for the whole of Central Europe extremely important. On which side of that ridge you stand, or be downhill, because then the water will go to the Black Sea or the Atlantic. Go for it, didn't like VHG either. To the left is the Autobahn A9, that is often to the left of this route. And it runs quite smoothly for 300 kilometers per hour in my opinion. performance-wise. And yeah, this is actually the main feature. Yeah, not much traffic on the A9, that's true. Usually there is more, especially when you're going northbound. Where is the Audi driver joke now? Audi is BAG try to play in the Premier League of car manufacturing. Alright. Yeah, that's correct. I don't have any, I just hate them, so City Radar. Alright. Well, can't hit me. I'm actually quite happy with my banged up old BMW, and Skoda is better than Audi, says Acura. Autobahn is switching sides. Inspectors, I actually don't mind them, but they have become seriously expensive, the Audis. Compare Skoda Octavia to an Audi A4, for example. Well, that's why I am driving my BMWs come with a permanent left indicator, don't they? Not mine. Mine is really banged up, more than 220,000 kilometers on the clock, and probably with more dog and horse hair in it than attitude. But at least it has a Sportfahrwerk. That makes up for a lot. Mercedes weggeschmissen. Bavorak. What does this mean now? Bavorak. Bring mich Werkstatt. For BMW. Yes. So, now we lost the Autobahn for a bit. Soon we will be passing Kinding. Here's the Autobahn again, in case you missed it. The A9. now have all the relevant German car factories and trains in world: Cologne, Stuttgart, Munich, and now Ingolstadt. That's probably true. That's why we have so many L cars. The tunnel again. John Striker, subscribe, thank you so much. I am lucky to travel to Offenburg tomorrow from the Netherlands, so I also hope to go 300 kilometers per hour in Frankfurt. Yes, I've been to the Netherlands also on my layover at Amsterdam Schiphol twice on my journey to Chatham. Actually, yesterday I spent 4 hours in Amsterdam waiting for my plane to take me home. Yeah, you can see it is quite nice running with 300 kilometers per hour, but a bit uneventful. So they will preserved in this game like a mosquito in some train. Is Schiphol really in Amsterdam? Well, that's obviously debatable. Is Heathrow and Stansted in Luton in London? If the trains are not running, you actually feel that it is quite far away from London Heathrow. Close just 15 minutes. Yeah, here is a bit of a weird part of the A9. I don't know what the heat did to this part of the A9. At any rate, it got destroyed here a bit. There is one runway in Schiphol that is like a 15-minute drive from the others. Wild suspected. Alright. Schiphol is a weird airport, especially because you have only one terminal, but you can walk like for an hour from the A gates to the G and H gates because there are so many gate groups in one terminal. Minutes with NS, but in DB you will run it will be way more. Alright. Slowdown is announced to 0, but we still have a lot of a way to go. Yes, more than 50 minutes is a really long way away. You can taxi for them and then fly through. So, passing Kinding here. Around the Kinding area, I think after the next tunnel actually, there is a hill with a rune on top of it. And there is a legend that if you climb that hill and go to this rune at a certain night of the year, and don't speak a word while you're doing this, then you can meet a poodle who is actually the devil in disguise, and he will show you a hidden treasure. And yeah, we actually tried this once, but we did not meet the poodle. And now we are running closer to a temporary speed restriction of 70 in our 300 zone. My brother traveled Amsterdam, Berlin today. In Hanover they told that BRO 408 would not continue and there would be empty 7 car or 12 standing to do the rest to Berlin. This is a tight fit with all the people, but I'm happy that he arrived fine. Yes, good thing he arrived fine. Because it was his first time with the Deutsche Bahn. Oh yeah, it's always a first time. One thing actually is that the IFB does not follow the LZB speed. What I actually thought the AFB should do, but it is not. You can see the red marker for the LZB speed going down. But the AFB is not following. You have to do that yourself. It's nicer anyway. AFB is building up a reserve and he speaks. The devil is in the details or a poodle. Well, the devil being a poodle is a very, very classic thing in German, right? We all know the Faust. Das also war des Pudels Kern. Ein fahrender Scholast. Der Kasus macht mich lachen. The Pudel's core, yes. When Mephistopheles is in disguise of a poodle and enters Faust's body. Aha. But shouldn't it lower the yellow marker anyway, even though it is not braking? Well, we could just wait and see if it brings down it on its own. Maybe I'm just intervening too fast automatically. Nice idea anyway. I did not think of that. Next time we will try. I'm not 100 years old, so I've never read Faust or someone's cards line. But then they made me suspect it. Well, the Faust. We started it. That's cool. Or the Deutsche Leistungskurs. More important than knowing how to file a tax return. for the changed spark plugs. Thanks. Leiden, is that a city in the Netherlands? Yes, true. Now we're actually getting close to Nuremberg here. We're running in. So, I'm definitely not applying any brakes. Let's see if the AFB is taking us down automatically. The G warning already was there. You will hit the brake curve soon. Another G warning. Yeah, it's applying brakes. You can see it here. It is applying brakes. And you can see it here. It is applying brakes. And it's bringing down the speed, but it is not bringing down the AFB setting.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
LZB Ende. Now I have to brake on my own to 130 while we're running in the Nuremberg area in the southeast of Nuremberg.
Zugbeeinflussung.
So, now we're back. Ah, we don't even need a Nullstellung. AFB is picking up immediately.
Zugbeeinflussung.
Dürrenhof.
Zugbeeinflussung.
BR0.
Nächste Station Nürnberg Hauptbahnhof. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
That's what it is. And this is Nürnberg Hauptbahnhof. Der Ausstieg befindet sich auf der rechten Seite. Yeah, it's actually quite a bit between Ingolstadt and Nürnberg. But with 300 kilometers per hour. It's over in no time. And this is Nürnberg.
Geöffnet.
22 platform station, actually quite large. This does not really look like this. On the other side of the station, what you can't see really is the Kaiserburg that would come there. This is where the old city is, and in the background you would find the Kaiserburg. That was a fast run. Ingolstadt Tunnel, Forest Tunnel, Tunnel Nürnberg. Yeah, that is so. Nuremberg. Yeah, people around here, they call it more like Nürnberg. Nürnberg. Fahren wir nach Nürnberg, nein. And yeah, let's use a train that travels slower so that we see more. It feels less tunnel bridge than Kassel-Würzburg. Yes, it is true. It is shorter than that, definitely. And it is actually a nice run. It's nice to drive like this. But it is not very eventful if you run it on the ICEs. There are scenarios that make it, well, that have new game concepts. Once you have to stay at the same position as another train that is running next to you. That is not so super easy. In one scenario, you have to try to get the train to 360 kilometers per hour. Obviously, have to turn off the safety distance for that. Let's check it out a bit. You have a rail journey, high-speed master, where the next chapter is always locked, so you have to finish the chapter before if you don't want to unlock it with God mode or any tweaks. So you can see what happens here. You have an introduction and this opening drive scenario where you are running nose on nose to an AI-driven ICE 3. Has a much easier physics to accelerate and brake, so it is not so super easy to stay close to it. But that's actually quite interesting. Then head and tails is with the Nürnberg-München-Express on the 101, and the cab car, what is a bit of a struggle because you don't get the 101 expert locomotive with the DLC, but if you have it, then it typically substitutes in the timetable, but not in the scenarios. Whereas the driving trailer, the cab car, came with the expert locomotive, so it actually wants an expert locomotive on the other end. And here in this scenario, you have the expert driving trailer with a non-expert loco on the other end, and this creates all kinds of trouble, in my opinion. Timetable runs. The ET test drive is where you have to get to the 350, but you have to turn off the safety systems and then you don't get full points. It is a bit annoying. They should give you an instructions at when to turn them off. The unusual freight I have not tried. You can see this is how far I got in the journey. And then there is another scenario, I think, if you look at them. Yes, the golden hour. And this looks actually very nice. I have seen some footage of it with incredible skies. And what would you say? A Spectre Nuremberg Munich would have been nice because the southern part of the route has a totally different feel to it. Yeah, you have many more stations in between. Well, it was about getting the 300 km per hour fast track into it, and well, that's what it is. Would also be nice to have the other connection between Nuremberg and Munich that leads you via Augsburg in the game. So Donauwörth, I think it is, Treuchtlingen, Schwabach-Roth. This connection is the slower one that you can go if the Nürnberg München-Express is too full and you don't want to wedge into those cars. Training modules is only this one, but they have training modules for the different locomotives in it. In the timetable you find the 403 obviously, then the Talent 2 comes with the locomotive and the 101 non-expert version. And you can actually pick in the timetable the expert version and the non-expert version. If you pick the driving trailer, it should actually give you the expert version. I don't know if it can. Donauwörth is not a nice diversion, says June Striker. No? Well, I sometimes actually enjoy it when I go at night. Then we have the Karlsruher and the Wittenberger Kopf that we can use especially with the 101, with the 111, the 111. We can use the ECT. We can use the V90, the 294 from Leipzig Dresden, from the deluxe locomotive from Train Sim World 6. And then obviously the trucks too for the freight trains. Unfortunately, we don't have, they are only short, you can see that, right? We don't have the Vectron or other freight locomotives layering in, for whatever reason, not. And the shunting is done by the 294 and not a different shunter. The Talent 2 has the S-Bahn services between Nuremberg and Feucht. What is actually this part of the line? You can see it here. That is the line that goes on to Regensburg, and Nürnberg-Regensburg was a line that was in Train Sim Classic. One of the few lines in Train Sim World Classic that I actually own. So I know that. Nürnberg to Feucht. And I want the Nürnberg to Feucht service, and then I can explain a bit about Nürnberg and the route. Feucht for Nürnberg, Feucht to Nürnberg, Nürnberg to Feucht. Let's take this one. From München via Kassel to Hamburg-Altona would be something this Acura. Well, that is true. We're working towards it. We can do Ingolstadt Nürnberg, we can do Würzburg-Kassel. But then there is a big gap between Kassel and Munich, right? Alright. Our Talent 2. And here we can have a look at the map. We can see this is Nürnberg main station, the big one. This is where the old city of Nürnberg is located. Kaiserburg up here, Lorenzkirche, Sebaldeskirche in the middle with the marketplace where the Christkindlmarkt is happening. And you have the connections typically out here towards Würzburg. We'll go on this way, also to Bamberg, Erfurt, and all the connections to the north. And this would be more or less the line that ends up in the Treuchtlingen, Donauwörth, Augsburg line. There is a connection here that is not in this route here, that connects the big freight yard, the Rangierbahnhof, that is about here, with a hump yard and with a lot of tracks. But it is not in the game, obviously. This is the connection that leads out to the Nürnberger Land, more or less, and that can connect at some in some way then to Chemnitz and get to Saxony, or also to the Czech Republic. The Prague Zug sometimes going there. There was a connection Nürnberg-Prague would run this way. But our connection goes down here towards Dutzendteich, Gleißhammer, Dürrenhof, what is here. And then Frankenstadion, this is where the football club, the Nürnberg football club, the S3 FCN, is playing with the Max-Morlock-Stadion, Frankenstadion, that is now getting a refurbishment and probably also a new name. This is the connector to Nürnberg Langwasser and the Rangierbahnhof, as I said, and this is where we're going out. This is Fischbach. And then here to Feucht, and this is where we can go on to Neumarkt and then finally Regensburg, while this is the line going down all the way to Ingolstadt Nord and Ingolstadt. Yes, almost all trains to Prague go via Dresden. I wouldn't say so. Not this one. There is actually a connection. I don't know if there are still services between Nuremberg and Prague, but when I was little, there was always the Prague Zug running in the morning and in the evening. And that was a connection that was going that line. And Regensburg, 9 the city radar. I think the ones to Munich go via Hof. The ones to Munich go via Hof. Well, Hof is, if that is Nuremberg, and Hof is about there. Bayreuth, Hof, Bamberg, Würzburg. Those are the cities in northern Bavaria, and Prague is about here. So if you go to the east, more or less from Nuremberg to Prague, Nuremberg-Prague is actually a very, very old line of commerce from the Middle Ages on. They were traveling between Prague and Nuremberg, selling goods and taking tolls. And actually, if I am informed correctly, the king, well, don't know if you can call it the Czech king, the König von Böhmen and Mähren, actually had a country that reached almost to the border of Nuremberg. It was at Lauf an der Pegnitz, which is about here. Well, maybe a bit more outside. And this is where the closest part of the Czech border, if you want to call it like this, was closest to Nuremberg at the time. You can find in Lauf an der Pegnitz ein Wenzelschloss, and this is because of the Kaiser or König Wenzel. Don't know what this name is in Czech. Václav. And this is how close Prague was at the time being. And then the border was set more, and then beyond the Bayerische Wald, and then the Czech border, and then there is Prague at any point in time. Okay, enough of geography and history. Let's try for talent 2. You're not watching for my reminiscences in history, geography, and the Prague Zug. Also here. Also not here. Unisolated. I thought they are actually activated, but they are not. Now they are activated. Do we need lights? They are marker lights still. No. It works well. We know very much about this area. I was born in Nuremberg, so this is actually my home turf. this is correct. The S-Bahn trains are starting at the tracks numbered 1, 2, 3. When you're going this way, and you have a lot of weird old vehicles standing in those sidings. And we're actually not stopping at the stations, alright. We can go 80 now, I think. Yes. We can go 80. What's wrong? Why could I not accelerate after switching off? And see the radar says the most direct route today from Prague to Nuremberg is by train heading to Munich with a transfer in Warndorf. Oh, I see. So now here, this is Dürrenhof. Nürnberg Dürrenhof with the so-called Dürrenhof tunnel that connects the so-called Wöhrder Talübergang down here. The river running through Nürnberg, you cannot really see it. The river Pegnitz is coming here in from the east, and actually here you would find a quite open space with kind of a lake, the Wöhrder See, where in summer you can run boats and even people sometimes windsurfing and stuff like this. So here the river is enlarged to a lake with, well, you can walk on the sides and just relax. So even the whole area where the river runs into the city is banked with meadows and trees and stuff. So that is actually quite nice. If you're going in there from the east with your bike, you can almost run almost to the city center, almost along the, or always along the river, and you can see it from here, but not in the game. And yeah, this is a very important tunnel and connection if you need to get around in Nürnberg. There was a lot of Wenzels of Böhmen, yeah, that is true. Says Aqua, you're completely right. You have to check which Wenzel it was that the castle in Lauf an der Pegnitz is named after. Here is a very big Mercedes-Benz dealership if you are interested in. Here are the lines that are going out towards Prague and the east. This is the so-called business tower where the Nürnberger Versicherung is located with a lot of their offices. It is, well, maybe the highest structure in Nürnberg next to the TV tower and or the telecommunication tower, but it's more in the south. I don't think that you can see it here. So this is actually a structure that you can see from all the ridges around Nürnberg very easily. Business tower. This is in the game. Oh. Now we're getting a Zwangsbremsung. This is why when you're using this train service for explaining the world. Then we're getting a penalty brake. At Gleißhammer. At Gleißhammer is actually quite interesting because in the city you have this Zeltnerschloss here that is sitting in the middle of a little lake. There is actually a bridge in real life where you can reach it here via a footpath, and it's actually in some kind of art installation or art school or art institution is in there, and sometimes you can have classical concerts there. What are the collectibles? Rostbratwürste and Brezen? I have no idea actually. I never look into the collectibles. As little as I looked into why we had to acknowledge something here. Probably there was a red signal. Looked a bit like it. Let's see if we get a new Zwangsbremsung because of a 500 Hertz. No. The signals are green. And here's the Gleißhammer station, as I said. Oh no, Zwangsbremsung. Anyway, there is a nice castle. Yes, this is actually why they stopped this short here, so that we can see the little castle. Audi spare parts or gingerbread. I think there are actually like fossils found and tunnel signs. You have to check out Neil TV's video about the collectibles. He typically publishes a video about all the collectibles on day one. Lost the train by the 101. Not the 101, the 111 obviously. Here you have two distance signal boards next to each other. That's a bit weird. It should not be like this. This part here is actually a very interesting part if you want to traverse Nürnberg by car coming from north to south. Then Laufflughafenzentrum Feucht is where you're going through here. Moritz, Zeithain, Gröditz, Großenhain. That does not. This sign does not belong here. It does not have to. This does not have any reason that they're here. There is no reason, no. So, and this is Dutzendteich station. And what is the Dutzendteich? It's actually a little lake around the so-called Reichsparteitagsgelände, where are the Nazi Party rally grounds. You know that this is a very dark part of Nürnberg history. That it was the city where the Nazi Party celebrated their rallies in the 1930s and early 40s. And this structure here is the Congresshalle. That looks like a brick building. Actually, from the other side, it looks a bit like the Colosseum in Rome, and it was one of those megalomaniac buildings that the Nazis tried to erect in Nuremberg to celebrate their presumed greatness. And this is, yeah, very telltale for this area here. So it was never finished. It was supposed to be the biggest dome at the time, built with a lot of marble that they couldn't even find in the whole Reich. And here you can see this little lake where there are no shops where you can rent boats, travel on it, and nowadays they have like a museum for all the crimes that the Nazis committed in their time and about the Nürnberger Prozesse, the trials afterwards. So they turned this structure into something where you can learn about this dark chapter of German history. Next station should be the Frankenstadion. You can already see the floodlight masts for where the football stadium is. The club, S3 Nürnberg, a very traditional football club, used to be the club who have won the German championship most often before an upstart club from Munich took over in the 80s or 90s. Not entirely sure anymore. And then this was that. Last time they won the German championship was 1968. Since then they are more or less traipsing around their way in the second league. Maybe just run a bit longer. It's a bit boring here. I was in Nürnberg City once in my life, a long time ago, when I was little at the Christmas markets, and all I remember was that we were looking at some astronomical clock or some bells, but it was so cold that we hid in the toy museum. Are you a home fan? Well, if you are born in Nürnberg and raised close to it, then you have a certain affinity to what happens here. Oh, I'm actually running a bit fast, and now we actually made it across the line. I wanted to go to the Frankenstadion. Let's see if we can get there. And find a bit of it. Look at this track here. Nice. There is also the ice ring where the Nürnberg Ice Tigers were playing hockey. Floodlight masts. Maybe I just went a bit far already. There was yes, I actually went in the wrong direction beyond those allotment gardens. So what you can see here is the racetrack also, where they run the Norisring with the DTM, Deutsche Tourenwagenmeisterschaft. It is around this part here. So this is part of the racetrack. is normal roads in real life, but for the race they just lock it off, and then you can run up there and down the other side. And here, where we have in the game this hall, there is actually where the ice tigers. Yes, I always liked the ice tigers, but they were not named after me, and they did not really see any connection with me. This is where the Zeppelintribüne, also a part of the Nazi rally ground architecture, was, and what is now a part where people are playing tennis against the wall and sitting around for recreational purposes. And here, what is, well, where you can see a bit, here is the stadium, here will be the ring with the ice tigers, and there is the area where Rocking Park is happening, if you are interested in rock music festivals. And this is in the Zeppelinfeld, what is behind there. And yeah, the Zeppelintribüne will be here with the swastika blown away, and all the columns that were on top of it were removed, but the thing in itself, it is still there, and they did not recreate it here for the game, but this is the place where it actually stands, and the racetrack is going around it, and a bit more curves that actually belong it to here, than the messes behind there and stuff. And typically when you were going to a home match to watch the club play, then sometimes you would park around here and go through this tunnel. And on this corner that you cannot see anymore, this corner over here, is where a Burger King is residing in a building that is also part of the rally ground architecture. What is always something that I really enjoyed, is seeing the Burger King residing in one of those Nazi architecture buildings. And on the other side is the Pfalzenweiher, where the club has, the football club has their home grounds, and where they do their public training sessions and stuff. Yeah, this is what I wanted to tell you about. Where you're running through, not noticing what is happening there. Like, oh, don't say something like this. New streams upstairs, we will compare in-game routes with Google satellite maps. Why not? This actually is something where I know my way about. Here's the connection where you can go to Nürnberg Langwasser and the Rangierbahnhof that I talked about, the huge freight yard. And now we're going more to the outside towards Fischbach. I think we are in a 120 thing now, yes. 20 we can go. What they got really well are those trees. Those high trees where you only find the branches on top. Now I'm getting into Fischbach. What still belongs to Nürnberg, or is one of the southeastern suburbs. Around there you have one of the biggest clinics, the Südklinikum. And then the train tracks hug first the southernmost part of the Autobahn A73 that merges with the A9, home of the Whopper. Yes, actually you can do a reality check very easily on this route. Reichsburger King Peter Fitzig is in jail. Don't get me started on the Reichsburgers. You can say about Burger King what you want. They are so harmless compared with all those lunatics. Now we are branching off. Now I actually have to listen to the signal so that we don't get stopped. Audis, yes, a lot of Audis on those L cars. But what if there is another beautiful castle? Well, there is not. At least that I don't know any beautiful castle at Feucht. And if you want to go on here, then you can play Train Simulator Classic, yeah, right. Train Sim Classic. And run the route to Regensburg. Here, in this game, it ends at this point. Feucht. What is always a source for dirty jokes between Feucht in German means moist.
Gleis 5, Einfahrt S2 nach
Feucht might be somewhat wet, yeah, exactly. So you're saying Feucht is ugly city? I don't know. It's too to know where is the spectre. Yeah, well, that's that. That was actually you can drive this run even more focusing on the drive. There are runs with stops in between so that you can make use of the stops in Nuremberg. And maybe we run one of the services in the Nürnberg München-Express for comparison. See if we can get this to work. I actually have no idea what Feucht looks like as a city. I almost exclusively know it from passing it on the Autobahn. So, what did I want to do? I want to use this one. and run from, drive the Congresshalle Express to Munich. To Nürnberg. I can only drive it. Well, then I will use my expert loco. Which one would I use? That one. The white one, because I remember one drive. Regional Express to Ingolstadt. Go ahead. Here on the 25th, actually. 9 days. Oh, is it so dark already? No, I don't want it to be so dark. I thought 1900 in August. Wouldn't it give us a dark sky? That is a bit weird. Let's see if we find a better one. Let's see if we find a better one. 19. Why is 1900 already night in August? Should not be that dark these days in August at 7. No, it should not. The time of day system somehow got confused here. So, we need to punch in train data, but I will just have this done quite easily. Yeah, Störung, because we don't have the brakes released. And Störung because we don't have a put into. Do we have an input device? It looks like it. Well, let's see how long are we. That is the only parameter that we always need to check. 180. The rest we will do more or less on the fly. 9 is already good. Brake. Bremshundertstel 200 is typically what we should aim for. 180 for the length and 200 for the VMZ. I think those are reasonable train data.
Störung.
Oh, we have a Störung on the Antriebssteuergerät 1. Hauptschalter aus, Zugdings aus, okay. 23 F10. Let's look for that one. It's always nice to have expert locomotive starting with an error. And I forgot my number. What was it? 23 F10. Let's look where it is. Can we see something that is out? Only the Hilfsluftpresser. ASG1. We're looking for ASG1. Here. Off. And on. Did it help? Let's check. Aus und wieder einschalten. Der Hauptschalter aus mit dem Taster Hauptschalter. It was not successful. Falls kein Erfolg, Hauptschalter ausschalten. So we have to go with one Antriebssteuergerät allein. Now it should be switched off automatically. Did I move the wrong one? 10, not 23. Oh my god. It was the Steuerung Antriebssteuergerät and not the Antriebssteuergerät. This one I should have switched. Thank you, Juniper. You are right. I got the wrong one. Let's see if that fixed it. Sonst mit Fahrschalter. Okay. This is how we acknowledge with the Fahrschalter. But it's still didn't do it. Now what we can do is try to do it with Hauptschalter aus. Hauptschalter ein. But it does not want to be fixed. Hauptschalter aus, and then the Antriebssteuergerät should actually be switched off automatically. Antriebsanlage 1 aus. Okay, then we will stay with that one. Dann bleibt's halt aus. ASG 1. Close the doors.
Schließvorgang eingeleitet.
Do we have lights on our locomotive? We do. We can go. Steuerung, Antrieb, Steuergerät sounds peak German, right? We still have no power on the train line. Now we have. So we are running only on 3 motors instead of 4. Oh well. Since we are late anyway. Can't be so bad. So again, the Expert 101 is not part of the DLC, but if you own it, bought it separately, what you should do, because it's a great piece of work, then it layers in. And if you think that the white 101 is the wrong locomotive for this service, I've actually been on a service running from Munich to Ingolstadt with the München-Nürnberg-Express with exactly a white 101. Stopping at Allersberg. Not at Gleißhammer, not at Dutzendteich, not at Frankenstadion, not at Fischbach. We're getting into the LZB soon, like now. On LZB we can go up to 200 with this train. And already we can go 200. Unfortunately, we only have 3 engines or 3 motors out of 4. Deutschlands schnellster Klimaschützer was that on the other side. And what they really got well are those trees, because this is exactly what the trees in this area look like. Fischbach here. Still the blackout when going over other tracks. I did not notice, but yeah, I totally believe you that there still is this problem. Also at Ingolstadt there is a bug on one track. The far rod is poorly built outside of the rail and running that the train loses power shortly, which makes quite a mess with braking. Oh my god. I did not notice that yet. But this is totally possible. So from what I heard is that this DLC actually started out as a community project until it was taken over by TSG. Was also an interesting idea. Channel. First channel to connect the Danube with the Main-Rhine. Ludwigskanal. Actually a nice typo city radar. Ingolstadt. So this is what it reminds you of, Ingolstadt. So we will slow down for the 100 because we're going into a loop at Allersberg. Everyone's mountain. Allersberg. That is actually a nice translation. this signal here is showing dark plus ZS310. I can't tell you whether this is Dunkelschaltung or not intentional. I cannot really say. Seems weird at any rate. It's dark because I follow the cab signaling instruction, yes, but why does it show the ZS310 then? I always thought that they only switched the stop signals to dark, not the ones that allow you to proceed. But hey, Dunkelschaltung is a very arcane thing in itself. And you always find contradicting sources for it. Allersberg. Rothsee. This will lead you to the so-called Franconian Lake District. It's not only this little pond, but there is actually quite a nice big lake with a lot of opportunities to relax. And what is Ingol? I think this is related to some name, but I can't tell you out of the top of my head what name. To the left, as always. Look how fast this guy is going in his blue car. Woo! Must be an Audi. On the A9. What we don't see is the grading area on the A9, what has a quite famous, well, break area where you can stop and refuel. And when I was young, this stop area, pause area, break area was called Mos Eisley Raumhafen, after that place where Luke Skywalker goes to in the first Star Wars movie. Named so because everything came together there. So when people were running around at 3 or 4 at night, did not know where to go, they were going to Greding, Mos Eisley Raumhafen, having a snack at McDonald's. Those rest areas are parallel universes. Here, this is the new canal, Main-Donau-Kanal, and this is the part where also the water divide between the Danube and the Rhine is located. So now we switched over from the Rhine area to the Danube area, more or less. See, now you're getting in the more hilly ground. And the A9 swerves off to the left. You get into a distance where there are quite severe speed limits on the motorway. 120 or even 100. Then Mos Eisley Raumhafen, and we are not seeing this because we're going through this tunnel here. Somewhere around here should be the ruin with the poodle. A9 is already back. probably this ruin thing is closer to Kinding. Maybe it's after the next tunnel. With those tunnels you always lose. Lose the count, yes, the old Mill Valley, the Altmühltal. We're going crisscrossing there a lot. This is the part where it swerves off for Mos Eisley Baumhof, and we are going into another tunnel. That makes more sense distance-wise. Have a number 4013. Maybe we should have registered. Even works in the tunnel, nice. Right, announcing the slowdown for the loop at Kinding. Last time I was driving home from Ingolstadt to Nürnberg, I tried to order a pizza online so that I would be able to pick one up on my way home. But with all those tunnels, I was just not able to get the order out. Because you were going out of the tunnel, try to send the order and you are in the tunnel again. Blim. In the end I asked AJ to order the pizza for me. So now there should my poodle ruin sometime around there. Yeah, between this, on this short track, I think it is this hill here. Nuremberg or something is the name. Let's see how the passengers behave. tend to do weird things at Kinding.
Kühlfreigabe, Kühlfreigabe, Kühlfreigabe.
It says Zugbeeinflussung because I hit the acknowledge key out of muscle memory, I think. So I remember this trip back from Munich in a very full train of this kind, and I was sitting in this compartment first on the floor with my back to those thingies where you can actually put up your bicycles, and this is really a backbreaker sitting there. It was so full that people were getting pressed into those thingies. It was no fun at all. So actually not a lot of people boarded our train. Sound standard, says CD Radar. Well, for the Nürnberg-München-Express. That's why I'm always so happy when the Skoda locomotive actually works, right? Makes no sense for the people to wait for the next train. I'm just waiting for the EC. Well, good luck then. Here is the EC, but it won't stop. At least I'm properly delayed. Yeah, this was the problem with the Steuergerät in the beginning. And now I have to make it to Ingolstadt Nord. 23 kilometers in 3 minutes. Sounds reasonable. Dear passengers, the control for the control unit is out of order. We apologize. Thank you for traveling with Deutsche Bahn. Well, actually, the control for the control unit was okay. I switched it off by mistake because I mistook the control for the control unit controller for the controller of the control unit. So who controls the controllers then? poker face for that simulator. Yeah, we are out of the tunnel. And we are in the tunnel again. At least we're almost back to our 200. Passengers in first class. I wish I had taken the Audi. Well, they are probably traveling there to pick up their new Audis at the factory. For me taking cold. Now the Autobahn switched side. Kara, I need my second hand to brake so that we don't overspeed. Kara thinks I should rather pet her than drive trains. When I arrive in Munich, my Weißwurst will be totally cold. Well, when did we start this service? 1508. Even with fast travel, we could not have made it for Weißwurst time. City radar is improvising about the name Ingolstadt. 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 Blut-Ingolstadt. But I hear there are nice castles. Not so gold. Well, if we get a Zwangsbremsung at every castle that we pass, then I want the new Austrian route to be in the Burgenland. I officially lost my mind. Ingolstadt is the best. But it would have completely melted this summer. Ingolovo Miesto. Ingolstadt. Now slowing down for the 160 release speed while we are closing in on Ingolstadt North. Ingolstadt Polnot to celebrate the new Simrel DLC. Ayo. How come it come out at the same day? Yeah, I don't know. I bought it, but the only thing that I did was on the 13th pack my bags for England, make sure that the horses will be properly taken care of, and then left. And just returned yesterday, 1 hour before midnight. Englandstadt. Now we're actually stalling the train because so much of the train is still sitting downhill in the tunnel. Oh, and now I actually blew the main circuit breaker. Oh no, more problems with my Antriebssteuergerät. The train is running back into the tunnel. That is bad. Antriebssteuergerät 3. Now we're losing more and more Antriebssteuergeräte. Now it is 23F32. You totally Ingol blew it out. -3 engines. Let's see if we can get it running again. It's 23F23. I cannot unlock the door sitting halfway in the tunnel. I'm sorry. So was it 23F30 or a different one? If I only could remember stuff like this. No, 32. 23F32. I knew it wasn't the right one. Dear passengers, it's me again. Where the fuck is 23F32? Here. Stromversorgung, that is the electric current. For driving motor number 3, respectively the controller for driving motor 3. Off and on. And if kein Erfolg, Hauptschalter ausschalten. We can see what happens if we turn it on again. If we can actually turn it on again. And we have lost 2 driving motors. You know the situation is serious when Tiger starts swearing. Okay, 101. It's rarely happening, but yeah, it was a most unfortunate situation for this to happen. Not sure if I overdid it with trying to stop the train from stalling. How do we start this train from this not very nice situation on the ramp? No, it's rolling backwards. It's rolling backwards and it's slipping, right? And not getting it out of there again. Are we? Yeah. We're getting it out. But just like that. With 2 driving motors down. Activate random train force. They said it will be fun. They said yes. very correctly so. All right. Okay. I can stop the train here. Actually, nobody is opening the doors. They thought, well, this train does not look very inviting. They were sitting there on the ramp down to hell. Nürnberg, Allersberg, München. Not to mention Kinding. Well then, if nobody wants to board, then stay here.
Schließvorgang eingeleitet.
Why is my door interlock indicator not lighting up, by the way? I don't blame them, the simulator. So, let's see if we can get this train moving again with 2 motors only. Still halfway in the town is a really bad place to have a stop. which for example a sudden red signal just after a tunnel like that, and you have a heavy freight train, good luck getting in, rolling forwards again instead of backwards. Yes, you're right. You should have those funny tunnel signaling signs that we know from the Dutch signaling. Is there a standard or regulation for this? At what grading a locomotive has to be able to pull the cars from standstill and max speed? No, I don't think so. There is a minimum value for Bremshundertstel. But the idea would be that you stop your train if you feel that you cannot pull it out and call for help. This is why you only have to fulfill the Mindestbremshundertstel for speed of 20. Because the idea is that if your train is rolling backwards, you should just stop it. If you can't control it with your locomotive. And then you call for a 218 to pull you out, or something like this. So, now we're limping into Ingolstadt Main after having lost one motor in each bogie. LZB Ende, having to slow down to 60. There is no point in accelerating much beyond that. What happens now? Steuerspannung, Antriebssteuergerät 3. Okay. Since we already switched off the Antriebssteuergerät 3, it is probably not so bad that we lost the Steuerspannung for it. Weiterfahrt bis zum nächsten Halt. Alright. That is probably an instruction that you cannot not comply with. Fahren Sie weiter bis zum nächsten Halt. Drive on until the next stop. And this might happen quite often if you have a steep tunnel on a busy freight route, because they want to also carry as many cars as possible. Well, I don't think that this actually happens a lot. But did you not tell us that you witnessed something similar in the Netherlands, where a tunnel got stuck, where a train got stuck in the tunnel and had to be pulled out? Yeah, right. You have to do it like Ronnie told us and tell the dispatcher, stell durch, ich bin schwer. Uff. Set the path through. I'm heavy. Yeah, it was probably a bit my own doing, because I overdid it with the brakes first, and then I tried to prevent the train from stalling. So this might have overloaded the Antriebs, the motors, and killed one more Antriebssteuergerät, especially after one was already off. But maybe it was a random fault. At any rate, we got it out. Even though I'm quite sure it is not best practice to get the train that is already rolling backwards to move forwards again by increasing the throttle. It's probably something that you should not do. But you will probably stop your train and then try to start it from a standstill again. Audis for Munich. Q5s or something. Strange things are happening here in Ingolstadt. Yeah, maybe. If the Nürnberg-Munich-Express is operating with replacement units because the Skoda locomotives don't work, then you typically don't have the trains running through from Munich to Nürnberg, but you have to switch here at Ingolstadt because they use the remaining train sets with the Skoda locomotives that can go faster on this fast track to Nürnberg, and use the old sets on the part to Munich. And then you would go with those intercity sets from Munich to Ingolstadt and then switch to a Skoda set to go to Nürnberg for the rest of the way, because they can actually go a quite weird number, like whatever, faster at any rate. And then you always have to switch tracks back and forth because the tracks typically switch a lot at Ingolstadt when you arrive here. And then, well, yeah. There is actually an old locomotive standing around here in real life with an old signal. What I know because I had some time to kill in one of those occasions when I had to switch trains at Ingolstadt. But obviously you don't have to go through a wall to get out of the station. But there is a station building that you go through. Maybe a 101 that got stranded there. No, it's a steam loco from some Bavarian mining railway, I think, or something else. A small steam loco at any rate. Maybe you can find them on Google Street View together with an old semaphore signal, I think, if I'm not confusing things. Alright, maybe we should switch this train for a different one. At any rate, we are done here. Even though my erratic driving and killing 2 motors out of 4, it gives you a platinum medal. That is always so nice. Alright, those were 3 impressions from the Nürnberg Ingolstadt one. It is mainly built for driving high speed. The most interesting part is probably the Nürnberg Munich Express. If you own the 101, then you actually can enjoy the random fault feature like we did. And if you want to run the 300 kilometers per hour, then you can do this, and it is actually a nice thing. It is not so long. It won't take you forever. And it's actually nice for winding down after a long day of work. Guys, it was a rather longish stream again, 2 hours and 30. We will see where we get to next week. At 25th, there will be the Dovetail Direct. After that, we can talk about all the new things that are at the horizon, all the nice things, all the annoying things, and so on. After that, actually starting with the 25th, there will be Gamescom, and AJ and me, we will be at the Gamescom, so if you happen to be at the Gamescom too, then maybe our paths will cross there, and we will see what impressions from there and from what the Dovetail Direct will give us will create. So there will be one more Sunday in between. I will see what I can do there. I still can't do any Japanese stuff, and this is and here is me trying actually to learn some Japanese kana to understand what things are, and then they delay me again. What a run. Thanks for the stream, Tiger. See you guys suspect it. Yeah, what a run. Guys, thank you for bearing with me for 2.5 hours. See you soon, most probably next Sunday, maybe even on Saturday again for a workshop stream. And then is the Gamescom week with the Dovetail Direct, and we can talk about so much more things that are still hidden at the moment. Thank you so much. Have the greatest of times. Bye bye.